Hello, everyone. I'm Peter Towers, Managing Director of ESS BIZTOOLS. Welcome to this members overview on ESS BIZGRANTS. And the theme for today is using ESS BIZGRANTS to access grants for your clients. If you have any questions, please log on during the webinar and I will answer your questions to the best of my ability later on. And if you're watching this in your own time, subsequent to the webinar, and you do have a question, please send me an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au. What I want to talk to you today about is the leading grants as I see them, probably a cross selection of grants that I've selected to discuss with you today. And these relate to the Boosting Female Founders Initiative, which is now open, round 2, with applications closing on the 22nd of April, 2021. We have prepared an updated paper on this particular initiative, and this will be available on our website within 48 hours and will be known as paper number 014548. So hopefully you'll be able to read it. Let's look at the key aspects of this grant, which is operating for a period of 5 years. It's part of the government's initiative to assist women into business and to even out the playing field a bit. The objectives of the program are to stimulate private sector investment into innovative startups for women, led by women, help women entrepreneurs overcome the disadvantages faced in getting access to finance and support to grow their startups, and to enable female founders to scale up, expand into domestic and global markets and become self-sufficient, and boost the economy through the increasing diversity of startup founders. It's a 2-phase application process. The first round of this phase closes on the 22nd of April 2021, when the applicant has to submit full details of what they propose to do. And then we can be ready for the second phase, which is some questions being submitted by the review panel. Now, the minimum grant is $25,000, which will be 50% of the total eligible project expenditure that the business has got in mind, and the maximum grant is $400,000. So that's saying the project, of course, could be $800,000. There is some advantage if the head office of the business is located in a regional area and the business is Indigenous owned, or at least one of the founding team members is a person with a disability, or at least one of the founding team members, and that's owners and leaders, has migrated to Australia as a refugee or humanitarian entrant, and in which case the grants can be higher. The minimum grant is $25,000. The maximum is $480,000. So there's some real benefits there if you are acting for ladies in your clientele, and I'm sure you've got some of them who may need some assistance in their business to achieve what they aspire to achieve from their business operations. So hopefully that information helps you. And as I said, the paper number 014548, and that will be available on the ESS BIZTOOLS website in section 14 within 48 hours, and the grant will be incorporated within the ESS BIZGRANTS product package, so that you will be able to identify it when you are doing grant searches on behalf of clients or prospects. The next grant that I want to refer to is as a consequence of this 1 in 50 year floods that have been experienced in New South Wales, a huge area of New South Wales, from the northern rivers down to south of Wollongong and in southeast Queensland. Undoubtedly, you are aware that grants are made available by the Australian government, who supplies most of the money for disaster grants, and these grants are administered by the appropriate state government departments, in this case, New South Wales and Queensland. I noticed that governments have announced that these grants have commenced, and you will be able to follow them. We will be updating our material as soon as we've received further information on the grants that are available, but normally they apply to primary producers and to small business operators. Obviously, there are grants already available for households, grants of up to $1,000 per person that's been affected by the floods, and other benefits, but are also available depending on the losses that have been suffered by people in those areas. And of course, some of our members may be caught up in these floods and overall the disasters that are occurring, and we send our best wishes to you. Hope it's not going to disrupt your activities for too long, but we are appreciative that this is a very worrying time and could be causing great stress for you within your professional firm and also within your household and your family members. What I then want to move on to is the Export Market Development Grant. So what I might do is just give you an overview of that grant. The Export Market Development Grant is available for any type of business. A bit rare these days. It doesn't have to be a company. It can be any type of business. And the income of that entity needs to be under $50 million if the entity is going to qualify for the Export Market Development Grant. There are 13 categories for the grant, and some of those categories have sub-limits built into them. But generally, the grant is going to provide 50% reimbursement of eligible expenditure that's been undertaken by the business operator. It applies to promotion of exports to overseas countries. And there is a cutoff after 7 years of claiming export market development grants for a particular market. So you need to be aware of that. The grant applications close at the 30th of November relative to the financial year ending on the 30th of June. So at this stage, your main application relative to export market development grants, I suspect, would be making sure your clients are keeping all of their documentation, and everything needs to be kept. If they're claiming overseas promotional visits, they need to keep their airline bookings, have a diary that identifies what they did on each day, full travel arrangements, and full documentation of all expenditure that's been claimed for reimbursement. The maximum claim, according to the legislation, is $150,000, but whether an individual business is going to be able to claim that total amount does depend on the total of claims that have been made. The government has been increasing the allocation for export market development grant a little each year in the last few years, but there still doesn't seem to be enough money to get the top claimants their full $150,000, and that's a bit unfortunate. I don't know if there's much more about the export market development grant that I can tell you. It is best to get the application lodged as soon as you can after the 30th of June, because there's normally an avalanche of applications around the 30th of November, and that makes the processing time very slow in the period after the 30th of November. So it's best to try to get them lodged in August, September. You've got a fair chance that the refunds will flow back to your clients in about a 5 to 6 week period if you lodge at that time of the year. Otherwise, at later times, you can wait some months to receive any notification from Austrade, who are the government department who administers this particular grant. The research and development grant, which is for companies with turnovers under $20 million, a tax rebate calculated at 43.5% of the eligible research and development expenditure. Now, full documentation needs to be maintained. We've just added a brand new research and development product package to ESS BIZTOOLS, which is available to our gold and silver subscribers and to anyone else who elects to subscribe separately for the research and development package. If you want to talk to me about that, please contact me. Applications for registration need to be lodged each year, and the legislation says that those applications have to be lodged within 10 months of the end of the financial year, which for 30th of June taxpayers is the 30th of April the following year. So we're very close to the 30th of April. In fact, I suspect we're only about 5.5 weeks away when the applications will close in respect of the year ended 30 June 2020. However, Oz Industry and the Tax Office have indicated that there is the possibility of applying for an extension of up to 3 months to lodge the return of activities that have been undertaken for research and development purposes. So maximum of 3 months. You need to have good reasons, but with all the problems of COVID-19 in the last 12 months, I think if you've got some reasonable reasons, you will probably be okay in getting the extension. If you've got a taxpayer who's anxious to get a tax refund of the rebate because they're trading at a loss, they cannot get access to that loss. And in fact, you shouldn't lodge their tax return until you have received the confirmation number from Oz Industry, which you will only receive once you have lodged the return of research and development activities for 2019/20 with Oz Industry. And that's the 30th of April 21 deadline document, of course. Normally, when you've got a client that's traded at a loss and has been undertaking research and development activities, they'll be putting pressure on you to get the tax return and everything to do with research and development finalized. as soon as possible in the new financial year, August, September, October, so that they can receive from the tax office the refund that they can elect to receive if they're trading at a loss. And the general aim of the tax office, with pressure from the government, of course, is that that refund will be paid direct to your client's bank account within 30 days of lodgement of the company's tax return, subject, of course, to you having done everything correctly. The main thing is there's various information relative to expenditure on research and development activities, details of clawback of grants, and also details of feedstock adjustment that affect the tax payable by the company, all need to be included in the company's tax return, together with the approval number that the company has received from Oz Industry. And that will only happen after the return of research and development activities for 2019-20 has been lodged with the Australian Taxation Office. So there's a bit in it. Research and development does require a fair amount of record keeping, but the company needs that in any case if this is going to be a bona fide research undertaking. The government had announced 2 years ago, or in fact a little bit longer than that, 2018 budget, I think from memory, some fairly significant changes to research and development. But I think one of the benefits of COVID-19 has been that the government has realised that research and development is very essential in the Australian economy. And in fact, Australia is one of the worst performers on research and development as a percentage of GDP in the top 20 countries around the world. So the government has withdrawn the fairly significant changes, especially for big business, that was proposed in the 2018 budget. So it's made the outlook a lot clearer for everyone. I think we all know where we're going with research and development these days, and there is a great opportunity for small and medium-sized accountants to get involved in helping your clients, because a significant number of the 13,000 companies who are participating in the research and development program started as very small businesses or even sole traders when they started. And one of the first objectives accountants should have is, if you've got a client who is undertaking fair income research activities, you need to get them into a company as soon as possible so that they can claim the benefit of the research and development incentive rebate. But the priority at this stage is to make sure that the return on research and development activities for the year ended 30th of June 2020 is lodged by the 30th of April 2021. If for some reason that is not possible, you need to submit an application for an extension, maximum of 3 months, to Oz Industry as soon as possible, no later than mid-April, if you are going to get back their approval prior to the 30th of April. So that's the research and development update as far as this discussion with you today is concerned. The next grant that I want to refer to is the Accelerating Commercialisation Grant. This grant is a great running mate for the research and development activity. In fact, we're calling it part of the trifecta. The trifecta is research and development incentive rebate, whereby the company can obtain a rebate, or in actual fact, if the turnover is under $20 million and the company's trading at a loss, they can receive a refund calculated at 43.5% of their verifiable research and development expenditure. But many companies will not be finished what they need to do to get a commercial prototype that can be sold in the marketplace. There's a whole new activity in front of them after they prepare a prototype or an outline of a computer program. They need to commercialize it. What's commercialization cover? It means getting some feedback from potential customers. Many clients will seek some patent protection by applying for a preliminary patent, which gives them protection for 12 months while they discuss their concept with customers and potential customers. And from those discussions will come suggestions for modifications to be made to the product, to the prototype. And the Accelerating Commercialization Grant can cover that. When the application's lodged, though, you need to have determined how much those modifications might be going to cost, so you can factor that into the application. Most companies will need to develop distribution manuals, sales training manuals, and a whole range of other procedural information that must accompany the product. So that can be claimed. The development of that material can be claimed as part of accelerating commercialization. The company will also need to get legal advice on the preparation of distribution agreements and appointment documentation, licenses to use agreements if they're licensing the product to be used in various parts of Australia or overseas. That work, all done before the first commercial sale is being made, is also able to be claimed under the Accelerating Commercialization Grant. And the company will undoubtedly need a marketing strategy. And the development of the marketing strategy, as distinct from the implementation of the strategy, is claimable as an expense under accelerating commercialization. The company might need a business plan. Should be able to claim that under accelerating commercialization, because the company may also need to raise some capital and might be interested, if it meets the eligibility requirements, of raising capital as an early stage innovation company. So all of this can be put together and claimed as accelerating commercialization. And this is a grant. And the company has up to 2 years to spend that money. And the payments are made on a quarterly basis in tranches. So based on the company's budget, which has to be submitted as part of the application process, that's the budget for this commercialization process, the government will then make advances, normally withholding 15% to make sure all of the required documentation is ultimately submitted, and then the company will receive all of the money. So that's how Accelerating Commercialization Grant operates. And it's a very worthwhile grant. It is highly competitive these days. And there are quite a number of companies each month receive the full $1 million grant. So that's saying that they're going to undertake $2 million worth of work, which might give you some idea of the size of the task that many companies have as they commence this journey towards commercialization. They've got a prototype, but that's not going to earn them any money. They need to subject it to robust evaluation in the marketplace. And I've had clients that have supplied prototypes and given them to mining companies and had all sorts of trucks and front-end loaders and all sorts of things run over them at times, just to see how durable they're going to be in an actual working environment. And all that sort of testing needs to be undertaken to get a product suitable for full commercialization, because otherwise the customers won't buy it. There's plenty of others out there that are available. So hopefully that gives you an overview of activities within research and development. Don't forget that you can utilize the ESS BizGrants product package, which we'll look at next time we have one of these conversations on grants, to assist you to identify the grants that suit an individual client, and then you can produce a report which can go to the client to show them the grants that they might be able to apply for. So thank you very much for being with us today. And thank you for your participation, and I hope you have a great day. If you've got any questions, please send me an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au. Have a great day. Goodbye.